the camera? Do we look at each other?
All right. Well, yeah. Just whatever.
Just a
To be
casual
honest,
chat.
back with it. People's perspectives. As usual. Oh, have I changed something here? No, I haven't. As you, as usual, just gonna let you introduce yourself and then just get on and see where the conversation goes.
My name is Mobo. I work in music. I'm an artist manager, festival booker, and a creative producer.
Right, that's quite a lot of names there. Would you
Aye.
say that you cover all bases?
Of what I do.
Yeah,
Those would be like my titles.
your
Well,
titles.
my
And would you say you
titles.
do a lot more or less,
Oh
or
yeah, 100% a lot more.
and there's no blanket name you could think of at all?
I think the blanket name, because of the way that I work, not only I'm an artist manager, I also very much think about like creating pathways for the next generation of talent and professionals who want to come down this route. There is no real blanket term. I wish I could do what a lot of the other managers that my peers are doing, which is just focus on a singular artist. However, I also have a different kind of mandate than them. I have an understanding that like when it comes to the music and the people that I want to work with and working with, there isn't much of a framework that currently exists for them to be a part of the wider framework. And a lot of the work that I do is around building another framework. Some people would say it's like, yeah, build your own tables. I think about building frameworks that can allow other people to then build their own tables. I guess that's what I do.
Right, so we can go with framework builder then.
Hi, framework builder, mate, system builder. Now, see, to be honest, man, like everything that I do, I still view it like architecture because that's where I started. That was my first love. I did architecture in art school, and the one thing that I remember from architecture school that just stuck with me was in first year, when everybody was super protective of their ideas. One of the lecturers was like, "Big man, when you design a building, you might put 3 years from the initial meeting to the building being built. Once you hand over the keys, can you go and chap the door and be like, hey, I built this, let me in." So it's like a lot of the stuff that I do is very much around that. I build things for other people. I understand people's ideas, I understand what it is that they're trying to do, and I create the context for them to be able to do it. You want a music career? Cool. These are the things that you need to have covered. These are some of the people that we need to speak to. As an architect, I am not on the building site, am I? I speak to the builders, I speak to the team around there, I speak to the engineers. I have an understanding of what they do in order to be able to communicate what my client wants to them. And that's a lot of the way that I approach it. So architecture, music, framework builder,
Yeah, so
cultural
just,
architect.
since you said, because I was going to actually, just say we'll talk about a lot of things. I think you've covered quite a bit there that I want to go into. Considering that being said, maybe not even framework builder, as you said, you've done your degree in architecture, so you could just go ahead and say architect, because at the end of the day, like you've just explained, it seems as though you are designing and creating something for use of others, or them being
Yes.
able to use that to, in whatever field it is they are looking to do. You just build something for them that they can then go ahead and use. So I guess
Exactly.
architect maybe is just
Architect, yeah, man.
exactly what you are.
Cultural architect, that's the mentality anyway. And framework builder also reminds me of like my thesis project in architecture school, which was around urban mechanisms. And the idea within that was essentially, what is a mechanism, what is a component that you can add within the urban realm, and how can it further help flourish that urban realm. Example, Glasgow city centre. Ever since they pedestrianized Sucker Hill Street and they've got that like the extra cycle lanes and a little bit more path for pedestrians, you feel a lot nicer there. And that there came through that process of figuring out what is a mechanism, what's an integration. And I feel a lot of the work that I do thinks about that way as well. What are the mechanisms? What are the cultural mechanisms? What are the professional creative mechanisms? We're currently sitting in Up to Standard Studios, which started as a commercial recording studio. I joined the team and we started looking at other ways to interface with other folk. So we started the Up to Standard media platform, which gave artists context and visibility amongst each other and for the wider scene in order for people to understand what it is that they're doing, which then went on to us developing the artist and professional development programs, which is another mechanism. Everybody wants to be the superstar, but people don't understand that it takes a whole village in order for that superstar to be that superstar. If you want to be the person on the stage, who's going to be your stage manager? Who's going to be your A&R? Who's going to be your manager? Who's going to be all of these extra things that we usually don't see, especially as black and brown people, where we oftentimes looked at as like we're seeing examples of ourselves in TV as entertainment, but we don't oftentimes see examples of ourselves on TV or in entertainment as the professional shift makers. I'm interested in building an army of professional shift makers. I'm interested in building an army of people like myself 5-10 years from now that I can pick up the phone to and be like, yo, I've got this super cool artist. Oh yeah, I know that you've got an artist in Japan. Let's connect something. My whole thing is about how can we build something here in Scotland that will then stop people from essentially having to leave towards London. It's about that longer term vision for me.
Well, where would you say that mentality came from? Obviously, you've given examples of
That mentality.
your architecture and that just that
Oh,
mentality,
the mentality
that
of like
idea
I need to do stuff.
just of creating those, like you said, those mechanisms, those frameworks, and just that whole. Because, like you said, everybody wants to be a superstar. What caused you to have a shift in perspective that allowed you to see there's more to the superstar than just the superstar itself?
I think for me, I can think back actually like where all of that mentality came from, and like I don't know what people's experiences was in school and that, but like people have just always gravitated towards me. Like, it's always, oh, more with this, more with that. And that experience of being in the spotlight and the expectation that comes with all of that stuff, I don't have time for that kind of
Right, okay. Constantly being, okay.
Constantly being in the spotlight, constantly being like, so I've already had the experience of being the cool kid. I'm less interested in that. I'm interested in like how to support those people. But to get to the point essentially, like where did the idea come from of like wanting to be the support structure?
Well, would you say that maybe, because you just said this, if you want to be the support, do you think that maybe because you were this so-called cool kid, there was maybe things that you wanted support with that you didn't get support with because you were the cool kid or the superstar, you were seen as that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the work that I do comes towards that, like, that support and that, like, how do you do that? I got into music because when I was at the art school, I used to go to all of these shows at the art school that were just getting put on, and I would be seeing people getting booked from all over the UK, people that look like you and me, getting full, the room is full, but those promoters never thought about anybody from Scotland because they didn't have that access point to know.
Right.
And my initial mission was, you know what, I want a full lineup of artists from Scotland in the art school Vic Bar and sell out.
Right.
And that's what we did.
And then from there,
And from there, snowballed. Once you prove that you can do it, it snowballs. Oh shit, like, you don't need to be the rapper from London in order to get 300, 200 people into the room. You can be from here. And that's all I ever wanted to show people, And I think that mentality simply comes from, I wasn't born here. We moved here. And my viewpoint on things was always different. Where every time people seen problems, I seen opportunity because I had to. I had to find a way to integrate. I had to find a way to keep myself busy. The shift from architecture came out of me falling out of love with architecture because it turned into this thing that became a chore. And like naturally, I was gravitating towards the things where I was seeing a lot more like success and impact in.
right, okay. So would you say that maybe that shift necessarily came from you realising that yes, architecture is something that you enjoy, but it wasn't going to push the needle in a worldly sense maybe, and as much as you would have liked it too.
Yeah, 100%.
So then you decided to become an architect in another sense.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%. I feel like, yeah, just as you said it, don't even want to add too much more to that.
Fair enough. And then, yeah, like you were saying, moving here, obviously coming from elsewhere, would have been your second move, right?
Yeah.
So that was your second move, different country for the second time, upheaving your entire life to move to a new place, and getting there and not really having an option, so to speak, other than to find solutions and what other people would look at as problems. And would you say that that's now what's maybe helped you get to a point where you almost go looking for problems because you don't see them as problems? They're essentially just things that will help growth.
Will help growth. Both of us growing up, puzzles, Lego, always trying to find ways to solve something. As much as growing up, we didn't realize that that's what our parents were doing. It was like,
Even if we don't want to, just like,
mate,
well, you can
what
leave
was
that
CDs?
table when you
What did CD used to do? Upside down Lego piecing it together. What happens when we put out a deck of Uno cards in the house?
Yeah, it's game on.
It's game on. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we've always been that way where it's like, oh, you're gonna do that. These are my options. You know what? I'm a dummy play that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just
we
the
had
way.
to make, even if we felt like we have a rubbish deck of like
you
rubbish
find a
hand
way.
of cards, you still find
You
a way
find
to
a
win
way.
the game, even though they've got all those super cards. But you'll figure out a way to finesse somehow and somehow still get
Somehow,
up.
some way, and that stuff has continued on with me. Like, oh, they're not booking anybody from. Cool, give me a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, like, you want to make music? I don't make music, but you know what? I know this person. I might know this person that can boom, boom, boom. Over time, I just found myself being that person where people find problems. I'ma be like, I'll find a solution. That was instilled in me from a child, moving to Scotland and finding my way around the east end of Glasgow and finding a way to like survive that, to be honest. Going into university studying architecture and like you have X amount of space to design so and so and so and so. How are you gonna go about that? Why are you making those choices? See that thinking, that way of thinking, that way of problem solving, that way of solution finding, that way of seeing opportunities in the smallest thing. I feel like that's been just instilled in us through growing up, seeing our parents just hustling. When did mum stop learning? Like, when did mum stop doing those courses and stuff?
Yeah, maybe
3 years ago? 4 years ago?
maybe. And I think there was an opportunity to do more, and I think she was going to take her break. So
Yeah.
we'll just say 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Probably 3 years ago. We'll just go with that.
And mum was overly qualified.
Yeah.
And did that stop her from then going and doing those things and gaining the understanding and being like, mate, what? If that's what you need me to do, let me. That's what I seen growing up. I seen someone who's like had all the qualifications, all the knowledge, all the things, getting things put in front of them and getting told, well, you need to do this. And then mum going away and being like, yeah, is it? You need me to jump this high? Cool, watch me teleport to fucking Mars and come back. And that's just the energy that's been instilled in me. Someone tells me that I can't do something. I'm like, yeah, tell me again. What you mean? I can't do it like tomorrow?
Yeah, maybe not tomorrow, exactly.
Come, in 2 months' time, let's have that conversation again. I remember sitting in 2016 on a panel and we're having conversations around the work that I'm doing and people are saying how difficult it is, how this is that, how that is that. And me essentially just looking at them and being like, brother, my grandmother lived on a market, couldn't read. I am here in fucking Scotland, building. Like, nobody can tell me that I cannot do nothing. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible. Like, I might not be able to do it right now.
Right this second, and I think, yeah, because even one thing that you said previously was about why. Like, you're looking for the solutions, but you're looking for the why as well. Because if there's no why and you just have a solution, but you don't have why that's a solution, then it's not really a solution.
Yeah.
And then also what you were saying in terms of, being like you're here now, and it may not be something that you'll be able to produce in that specific second, but come back 2 months down the line and you'll be able to produce that and some. I think a lot of the times when people have problems, they want a solution in the now, and I think that's where the problem lies, where they don't understand that there's going to be sort of a delay sometimes. Maybe if a problem arises, that problem hasn't arisen because of something that's happened in that moment either. It's arisen because of something that's happened previously.
Yeah.
So now you need to figure out what it was that's cause that knock-on effect for that problem, to then put something in place to solve that problem. Not today, but in the future. But I think people are maybe just have a tendency to want things done and sorted and solved instantaneously. And it stops them from being able to even grow or build, because easy quick fixes, like you put a plaster over something like a roof that's leaking, it's just gonna, like, you've not fixed the problem, it's still gonna leak and it's still gonna open up eventually. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think because people want those quick fixes, they don't have the patience to sort of even sit down and think of a solution that will ensure that that doesn't happen again. And saying that, I guess it takes a lot of patience. Where would you say you got the patience from to be able to even do that? Or would you say you don't have any
patience? Siblings like you and City, the patience. What are you talking about? The patience was also definitely instilled in me at a young age. To go to what you said there about people wanting things instantly, I think it's because people don't understand the process that goes behind getting to something.
Right.
You know, like, all we seen is that wall, but behind that wall is plasterboard, is insulation, is the different membranes, and all of these things come together in a way. I think I got my patience from, let me start again. Patience. Where did I get my patience from? I think I got my patience definitely just growing up and then through architecture school. Things take time.
How long was that uni course?
I was there for like 7 years or something, like crazy amount of time. I think I got my patience from learning to help people arrive at their own solutions.
Right, okay.
Oftentimes, I may feel like I have the perfect solution for you. However, where I think I can learn a lot more from about you is figuring out how to get to that solution with you. And that takes patience. You know, it's like essentially letting people, I know that we're going to decide that the cover is going to be red, but I want you to arrive there yourself.
Right.
What are the different things that feed into that? So I guess that's where I got my patience from. I got my patience from that. Just like, and also, like, you're going to edit these, right?
Yeah, possibly.
Little jump cuts and stuff,
Probably right. Yeah, probably wrong.
Yeah, I think I got my patience definitely from home. I got my patience through school. And something that also gives me a lot of patience is essentially just my name, Mobolaji. I was born, if we translate it directly, it means I was born with it.
Right.
My whole mission is figuring out what this it is. I did 7 years in architecture school, bro, to figure out whether that was it. If I was able to survive 7 years in architecture school, shift into a different career path, and still be surviving, earning money, like, bro, man, it's okay. It's like, and just to go back to my name, Mobolaji, the meaning behind that is the one that I was born with, joy, grace, it. And I just feel like our names, especially when it comes to the Yoruba or Nige or in general, I believe that our names echo within the universe to our ancestors. I believe that, like, our names, us being told what our name is as a child and us being called that, is an affirmation of the path that we're supposed to take if you believe in that, if you open yourself up to that. I believe that everything that I am doing is in service for those that are coming after me. Because those are coming after me, if I'm in service to them now, I believe that later down the line, I'm not expecting, I believe that later down the line, they will build an economy within music, within entertainment in Scotland, that then I will then actually will be able to start making proper moves with. I get my patience from an understanding of context, speaking to different mentors, understanding what it is that they're doing, understanding how long it took them to do it, asking them questions, and realizing that, like, things have knock-on effects. One thing leads to another. You told me about a book, Systems, isn't
Yeah,
it?
thinking in systems.
Thinking in systems. And I realized I've been thinking like that since building Lego things.
Yeah, not even
One
really
thing
realizing. Yeah.
links into another that would then create this arm that can then do that.
Yeah.
And I have an understanding that like those small bits take time, and I have a huge respect for anybody that is in the creative industries or doing what they're doing in the way that they're doing it. You know, I never believed that I know better. I just believe that I know different. You know.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. To be fair, I don't know if I'd cut that part, to be fair, because I think it's a good even sort of good for people to see that like there's multiple facets, and even the way that you like manage to sort of like, it's easy to just say, oh, thinking in systems, but where did that come from? Being able to see where it came from, understanding that actually it's not just, you're not just going to think like that one day to the next, not expecting you to even think like that one day to the next. Like there was prerequisites to that, and there's always prerequisites to things. And like you were even just saying 2 seconds ago, even with the Lego, like the small things is what makes that arm. Like the arm isn't just the arm, like it's made up of all these small things, and if you want to skip part of the steps and get there, like for example you were saying, some people just want to be the superstar, some people think they can just jump on the stage and start rapping in a mic or singing in a mic, but it's like, right, well, if you don't have a sound check engineer, that mic isn't even on.
Have you
Do you know
done
what
the
I mean?
10,000 hours yet?
You've not, you're trying, people are like trying to skip the steps. If not done,
You're trying
what
to
needs
skip the steps.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing for people to realise, that the small, because it's funny, because I made a video yesterday, I think I'm going to call it the smaller the better. But what I was even saying in there was, especially nearer the end, I was like, actually, that people always want to put emphasis on the arm. Everybody wants to, oh, look at that arm's amazing, I want an arm like that, without realising the intricacies of that arm in the first place, and actually that those small details and those small things are actually what's essentially actually more important than the big. Because if you have even this guitar and you leave out the small parts and you skip like this small guitar here, you miss out even one single thing on this guitar. It's not going to be not going to be the same. It's not going to work. It's not like, all the smaller things are actually what's more important than the big thing as a whole.
And also
all those individual things.
Also understanding the use of them, the why behind that, as we started this conversation about like, why is it shaped like this?
To be able to.
Why, you know what I'm saying? Like, why does it have a hole in there? Like, see, that curiosity for me is what drives me. I did not have a background in music. When I started in music, mate, Asami, affiliate music group, I used to come in with my architecture models and just sit there a break before I come home. Go up, finish uni, once, twice a week, I'll jump in, sit there, take in. Did I say much? No. What do you need? This, that. Do you know how often I'm sitting in recording sessions and people get overly excited and start chucking all the info? Yeah, try do this, try do that, try. See, for the first 3-4 years, I'm sitting in that corner, big man, and I'm taking everything in, and I'm asking. I am asking. I'm figuring out. I'm listening to how the sound engineer tells an artist to try this again. I'm picking up the syntax, the language. I'm being a student.
Because it's not something. It's not as though. So yeah, what you're saying is perfect actually, because you're picking up on the, like you said, the nuanced aspects of it, so that you can go ahead and create something so that anybody can do it. It's not reliant on that person, because now if it's reliant on that person and that person goes,
oh, what then?
What now?
What now?
No one knows how that person operates or works, even though you could have made it into a framework, you could have made it into a mechanism, and to be able to just consistently have that without it being reliant on people, which actually feeds into a bigger one of, because you were even talking about, obviously talking slightly into us being black and brown and not being able to see those other mechanisms as part of it. I think for me anyway, I'm going to be honest, I think especially after COVID and BLM and all that happened, I sort of, in one sense, fell into it, but also fell out of it. Like I went to Egypt loads of times, like on that big like trip with just black people pretty much. Like I went on that 3 times, it was phenomenal. However, I also fell out of it because I realised that a lot of these things, even as a mentality that I seen within those communities, in our community, was that, and even I'll go into that, even still back home, like in Nigeria, their perspective or understanding of something is that it's that person, it's like it's only this person or this thing that can solve their problems or that is able to do that. So it's like they put all of the importance on that government official, on that person. Like, and the example that I'd make is back home, they'd be like, oh, it's this person, he's just greedy, he's this, he's that, it's corruption. And I'm like, look, there's corruption everywhere. However, if you're even feeding into that system of corruption, then you're corrupt yourself too. It's like people always just want, it's easier to blame that person rather than looking at the system as a whole and figuring out what small parts of the system you can actually change, rather than changing the one big thing that you can see in front of you, which is the person. You now change the person and the system remains, the person just goes into that system and nothing is actually changed. You think just because that person isn't greedy doesn't mean that they're not now going to fall victim to the system of greed.
The system, exactly. It goes to the system. I'm glad that you finished what you said, the way that you finished this, like especially referring back to like what you were saying about, well, there is corruption, and the reason corruption is happening is specifically that person, but the way that you finish that with that, like it's actually around that system. And I've seen your journey from like King Tutankhamun to, you know, bun all of that stuff to, you know, and like it's honestly, I'm proud of you, like just watching you just going out into the world and being like, well, this is what I was told. However, what about if I look at it from this perspective? Why is that person saying things like this? And we've had back and forths all the time.
Yeah, of course.
And like the thing that I love about you is that like, man, you're not shy to disagree with people. You're just like, this is what it is. Yes, you can be an instigator as well. You can be an instigator too.
Top striker, like, top instigator.
But I think having that mentality of like questioning things is so key, man. It is so key. It's questioning things, it's questioning that system. It's like, why is it like this? And if you look at any system, it is in the end to benefit something.
Yeah.
Right?
And everybody always thinks that it's to take away from them when it's actually to give something to something. And that's just like, okay, there's an effect that maybe causes you to not get a benefit of that or get a detriment from that. But
and sometimes the systems as well though have like biases within them, you know, and that's also
to benefit someone though.
To benefit someone, and
it's always
also
benefit.
Back to the conversation earlier when I was saying around like building frameworks, building systems, realizing that there's existing systems that already exist and they work that way. Big man, people are thinking about how to pay off their mortgage. People are thinking about how to get money into their pension pot. People are thinking about how to get the kids through the school. Who am I to come 10 years after they've already had the system that works and they've got for me to come and be like, yeah,
your system is
your
broken.
system.
You need to destroy your entire system.
They might see and understand it, but big man, so you want me to take away from what I'm building from my Pekin in order for you to come through just because you feel you have a mandate for your community and
Yep.
Of course it's going to be an uphill battle. So what do? I study, bro. See me? I'm a hacker. Top tier hacker. Top tier hacker. You hear that?
That's a meme. Sorry, I had to laugh because there's a meme going around where the guy goes, yeah, I'm studying. I just study, bro. But anyway.
Forget the studying. I'm a top tier hacker, bro. Right. See hacking, what is it? If you want to hack into a system,
you need to figure out the system.
You understand the system, you study the system, you figure out where are the weak points within that system, and then you find a way to either subvert that or take absolute advantage of that.
Because destroying it isn't going to do anything.
Mate, you can destroy it, but the amount of energy that goes into you destroying something rather than you learning about something, understanding, okay, that's what is important to you, and you see that person as the important person in regards to how you then So how do I insert myself? How do I position myself in a way that by default, you're going to have to pass through this corner, innit? And it's not about me coming over and taking over a corner whatsoever. Yo, big man, I just actually spend time with the people that you claim to be helping, supporting. And I don't spend time with everybody, but big man, I'm in conversation constantly. So it's like...
Go on. because one thing I picked up on was you were saying like you were just sat in the corner and you were just watching.
Learning,
And one thing that I
studying.
realised when you were saying that as well was that I sort of do that because, and it wasn't even me that really said it. It was Auntie Andrea. She said that, especially when I was growing up, she just seen that I don't tend to say much, but she realises that I just sit and just listen and observe and take it in. And it wasn't necessarily. I always thought it was just a confidence thing on my part, but I was probably just naturally just gathering information, like constantly just figuring out, thinking, all right, cool. I've taken that on. However, what I realised was that in some situations when you do that, and I was talking about that yesterday to myself and to someone else, was being in that corner and just watching. Now almost like people's estimation of you is down here because you've never had any input, you've never said anything. They now think that you're all you're doing is just like you don't do anything, but you've actually done enough to now the position they're in, you understand their system to a point that you can actually take it so much further. But because you've never had a part in that system, you've never said anything, it almost looks as though like you don't actually even know what you're talking about or what you're doing, and they don't understand that. But my point was that even when I got into business with my business partner, it was very much what I just naturally did. I just sort of let things happen. I let just to watch and observe, and I did that for quite some time. And it got to a point where obviously I've been doing that, and I sort of now understand things to a point where I know that I'm able to take this from whatever level it is to the next. But because but because I maybe was spending that time just sort of letting the reins be taken by him, or him doing whatever he was doing and I was just sort of doing whatever I was doing, that estimation of even what me knowing what I'm talking about is almost put down. So now if there was any pushback, it almost causes friction now, because who are you? Like what are you talking? Do you know that type of thing where people and it was
Yeah.
do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, do you think that's of detriment? And what do you do to sort of maybe get around something like a situation like that?
Like that. I don't think it is of detriment to sit in, observe, and pay attention and learn and understand the system. It goes back to everybody wanting to be the star. Everybody wants to be the number one of the company. Everybody wants to be the person that built X, Y, and Z. Do you know how difficult it is to be the number two and learn from a company and learn the processes? And even when you feel like I might know better, to just be like, well, actually, let's go through this process. Let me gather the data. And I'm not saying that like you're to be quiet and not say anything, but there is something about being a student. There's something about being the young Padawan, being the person, because you need to. It's just because we can walk right now. Do you think that like you learned how to walk just because one day you could walk, or it's because you were watching and paying attention before you could even crawl, and then your muscles all of a sudden get stronger, and then now okay, I can move myself forward, and then from there it's like I can stand up. It's because you're paying attention, you're seeing other people do it. But we get to that certain point in life, I believe, because oh yeah, I've done school and I got this certification. I went uni and I got this certification. And the people that have been doing the same thing forever, and I'm not shitting on those people, but I'm just saying that like
You can learn from them, of course.
you can learn from them. But I believe that like us as a society, we are very used to things working in a certain way, a certain hierarchy, because that's what we've been taught since we were kids. Go to preschool, go to primary school, go to secondary school, get this degree, to go and do that, to then go and work for someone, to then go on X, Y, and Z. See, as soon as you step outside of that framework, as soon as you're not the super confident, screaming, shouting, people instantly assume that like that cannot work. So how do you get
And then
over
when you
that?
do, when you maybe get that confidence to start, or not confidence, but that understanding to start speaking, it's almost looked at as if like, what's going on?
But that's also okay, because like the thing that like backs me is just like, mate, like I very much like I'm a geek when it comes to it, man. Like I've realized over the years that's just like, and this is in a positive way, where it's just like I find excitement in other things than a lot of people find excitement in, I guess. I think that when people look at you that way, they're just underestimating you, which is fine. Everybody gets underestimated. Oftentimes it comes out of an ego thing, you know? Sometimes it comes out of a place where people are like actually trying to look out for you and realize that you're not quite there yet. But if someone is underestimating you, undermining you, yes, have the conversation, but I would encourage you to like use that as back fuel, rocket fuel. Big man, I came into music with zero music background, got all sorts of times I got told, well, it's that, or oh, you're not experienced enough, or this or that. Big man, I'm not, you know me, man, I'm sad, you know, like, but for me to be doing and working in the way that I work within music, working across the companies that I work, I'm still super very early on in the grand scheme of things. However, I went down the pathway that everybody said, oh no, don't go down that way. Because it's like, oh, you're never gonna make money from it, or you're never gonna. What about if my end goal within the next 5 years isn't about, or the first 10 years wasn't about making money? What about my end goal was about building an infrastructure that will give people the information on how to get to the money? What about if I am not interested in earning 50K a year and I'm more interested in getting an investment of 1.4 mil into a system that I have created that can then benefit the next generation coming? What about that? Because I know you can't answer that because you've not went down that route.
And you've not thought about it.
You've not thought
Because,
about
and
it.
even what you said was people just have that understanding of, oh, you start preschool and work your way up, but they don't understand that even if you're outside that system, it doesn't mean that you don't have to do steps to get to a specific point. They just think that, or you've never went to uni, so you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, yeah, I've not went to your university, but I've
Gives you an edge.
studied and learned in other ways and
Gives you an
got
edge.
an understanding in a different way from you, which whether or not it's, you might say it's better or worse or whatever, I've still managed and put in time to get an understanding.
Yes, and it gives you an edge. And that's the thing with university and all of these things. I feel like oftentimes people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to uni in order to get that degree, in order to do this and that and this and that. But that's the way that gets presented to us by the adults at the time when we're younger, because that's how they use their uni degree. See if uni was explained to you, education was explained to you in a different sort of way. And it's very much around like, yo, you go and learn what you want to learn in order to then apply it into your real world. If there was a little bit more push towards entrepreneurship, if it was a little bit more, you know what I'm saying, things along those lines. Big man, I did not study music. Once again, I did not study music. I travel through the work I do in music. I earn a living through the work I do in music. I can make change through the work I do in music. And big man, I have a whole bunch of fun doing this. Like, honestly, I think if I stuck in doing what I was doing with the feeling that I had, I probably would have shaved 10 years off of my life, would have probably found myself in a heavy depressive state later on in life because I never took the opportunity to be like, let's go for it. Let's go for it. And I feel like that's what I'll just encourage people, like, mate, like, you've got one life, innit? One life. Here. On this planet. I'm not talking about the hereafter. I'm not talking about whatever comes after. I'm talking about you've got one shot at this thing with these people that you're here with.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
Right now.
Regardless of what you sort of believe in, like at the end of the day, these people that you're here with right now is one shot with them.
One
if
shot
you
with them.
reincarnate, it's going to be different people.
Well, different people. So the point
it's-
I'm making is like, you've got one shot.
One shot.
I would hate to be that like, oh yeah, yeah, me and the homies were doing this, and then I don't know, I don't know why I never went down that route. Like that scares me. I'm too curious. I'm too curious to figure out what's behind that curtain. I'm too curious to understand how systems work. I'm too curious to figure out like how can I get to that point where an artist that is 14 that came to me with this amazing tune. How can I get to that point of nurturing that talent, even if they're older, to a point where that kid can buy Marge a house? How do I get to that point? How do I get to someone coming up with a melody in their head, telling their story over the melody, and that turning into, yo, I just bought my mum a house?
Because even that small thing, what you're saying, how does it go from a melody to a house? People underestimate the fact that, because I sort of recently said it to myself, I was like, I actually literally create the money myself from my mind, because it's came from an idea in my mind to then becoming something fathomable. However, between that, there was things that happened to be able to get there, but at the end of the day, it originated from here and it got here. And I think what people think is, with that, let's say that person with that song, people think that people just release a song and it just goes viral and then they just get loads of money from it and then just buy that mama house. But it's like, no, they had that song, they maybe even had that song for like 3-4 years.
Who's
and
the
maybe they
team
released it
around
already.
Yeah.
And it didn't do nothing because it didn't go through the right system to be able to get to that stage.
Yeah.
But when there is a system and you're able to find out that system, you can almost always guarantee a good song's going to do well, rather than hoping and wishing that, I'll put this out on SoundCloud and maybe it will go viral and maybe I'll make money and maybe I'll be able to buy my mum a house. I think people put a lot of faith in if, buts and maybes rather than figuring out absolutes. Do you know what I mean? And I think the absolutes of things makes things, you're not always ever going to get the absolute, but as close as you can get to that absolute is just going to make life easier. Because if you're working on 80% of absolute versus 100% of just ifs, buts and maybes, I think, in fact, I know the closer you are to that absolute, the closer what comes out of the other end of that system or that whatever you're doing is actually going to be close to what you want. Because if you're because this is the thing, if you're going off ifs, buts and maybes, you're like, maybe I'll do this and then I'll put it on SoundCloud and nothing happens. Well, no wonder, nothing was supposed to happen. However, if you put it through something where you're like, okay, there's a chance that this will happen, but I know that this will definitely happen and this will have a knock on, and you only get to 50% of that goal, and that goal was 1 million and you get 500k, are you going to be complaining? No. Definitely not.
Definitely not. And mistakes happen along the way. 100%. You know how many no's I get on a regular basis? Literally a message from the artist I managed yesterday being like, mate, win some, lose some, because we didn't get onto a certain slot that we wanted. But we've got 6 festivals for the summer lined up.
Yeah.
Do you know how many no's I got in order to even get to the number 6?
Yeah.
It's about the system to me, and that's why I keep going back to this. Like, you need to have some form of system. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah. And you can't, and you also, and one big thing that I'm going to say is, you can't do it by yourself, and unless you're going to integrate yourself in a system, giving something to someone and telling them to do the things that you don't want to do without giving them a system with it isn't going to work.
Yeah, it isn't going to work. It isn't going to work. And I think it isn't going to work.
It'll maybe work for a few days and you maybe make a little bit of progress, and that progress may be looking as, you've done something, but it's just going to crumble the same way that it would crumble if you did it yourself without a system. I think the more important thing is always just actually knowing what you're doing, rather than just doing anything and hoping and wishing. I'll just hire someone to do that, but if you don't know, they could literally sit and do nothing.
Very bad. I wish Sabi was sitting here, because he'll tell you, we've went through multiple ways of hiring people.
It's not the people.
See, until we figured out a proper framework.
It's not the people! That's why I was going crazy.
Until we figured out a proper framework where it's like, okay, this is where you're going to end up at the end. This is the aftercare, because our thing is all about development, and it goes back to that framework. Whether you're a boxer, whether you're an athlete, whether you're an entertainer, whether you work within, mate, you can be working in Tesco, mate. If the system wasn't working for the till, what are you doing? So it's like that whole mentality of people. For me, it's like,
because if the till doesn't work, it's like you can hire the best flipping
you can
person,
have the best customer service that you want.
But if the till don't work, that line's going to get backed up the wazoo.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And I
And
think people miss that point.
don't
And
have
I
a-
thought I was going. I thought I was going.
I don't have it perfect either. I don't have it perfect either. There's like
Definitely
so many different things that like still need that building and that help. And I don't know where I read this or where I saw it, but someone made this analogy around like when you go at home and you flick a switch, you expect the light to go on, innit?
Yeah.
Electricity. How did we tame brother? Do you know how wild this is must have been to some people?
Yeah.
Where it's like this thing, like thunder, lightning, all of that. To us being able to flick switch, and now it's. Do you know how mad the person would have been looked at? Like,
Yeah.
one day I'm going to capture this thing in order to
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Or the person that's like, oh yeah, I'm building this thing that's going to fly up in the air like the birds.
Yeah.
Until they
exactly.
figured out a system in order to
do
do
it.
it, where people can safely join that system. Why do people go and get schooled in primary, secondary, da da da? Because there is a system that people have seen that works that then returns results.
Yeah.
So why don't we?
And the
as
system isn't looking for the best students or looking for the best people. The system is, it's to create not the best, but 70%,
Yeah, man.
80% to that best.
Yeah.
Rather than just looking for the best.
Yeah, and I think yeah,
Because that switch was brilliant. Because it's like you crack the switch and it turns on a light.
yeah. Where does
That's
that come
fine. That's fine. But if you now think, all right, I'm going to hire someone to flick that switch for me, and that switch stops working. Them flicking that switch ain't going to change nothing. They're just going to keep flicking it, and that light's not going to change because the
system-
something in the system is broken, and
Yeah.
you don't know the system. They don't know the system. You're just hiring people to flick the switch ain't going to fix that problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The
100%.
problem is within the switch and the system behind the switch itself.
Yeah.
So that needs fixed. And then anybody can flick the switch and the light will turn on. It doesn't take a genius to flick a
the
switch.
switch,
But it
but-
takes a genius to make the damn system to make that switch turn on in the first place.
Exactly. It takes the electrician, it takes the specialist,
Exactly.
it takes the person that has an understanding that knows how to tame the forces, the natural
Yep.
forces, to a point now that we can generate electricity. It doesn't need to be from light. We can generate electricity. I don't know how electricity is generated, but you can generate electricity from like motion, the water motion that then turns this thing that then creates energy. It's transferred. If you can figure out a way to transfer that energy,
At the click of
you're
a button.
laughing.
At the click of a button.
wish.
You don't need a good switch flicker. Do you know what I mean? And I think people get caught in that
Oh, you need the best of the
we need the
toughest.
best of the best.
Forget the man.
Like, if you get the best of the best, good, phenomenal.
Mate.
But if you're reliant on that, I think there's detriment that's going to come from that. And that goes back to even what you were saying when you were sat in the corner, you were watching. He might have been the best of the best, but you're now, you've been able to gather 80% of what he was doing and turn that, distill that into something. Then now anybody can take and be 80% as good as him. And now you've got 3 people that are 80% as good as him rather than just him.
And it's also like, it goes back to where you are. It's like sitting in the corner, like just being a student. It's like, yes, I was paying attention to what they were doing on screen, but it's also understanding how they communicate within this industry. How, okay, cool, if someone that comes in that is not hitting the notes, what do we do? If someone that's come in that's like writing lyrics in the same way, what do we do? Like, I like these hypothetical things to figure out, like I'd rather know what to do when it goes wrong than what to do while it's always going right, because eventually it might go wrong. Like,
And then when it goes wrong, then everybody's scrambling.
For years we were doing these things, as I said, commercial recording studio, started filming these online series in order to give people some visibility online. What we then realized is that, like, yeah, we're doing this is great, we're posting every day, we've got millions of views and thousands of followers and all of that. But then all of a sudden our audience started being like, aye, that's shite, mate. Or like, the quality isn't good. So what did we do? We shifted to a place where we figured out, how do we get these artists' quality better so that our end user, the audience, doesn't get turned off.
Yep.
Remember, we didn't do much on the up to thing. We listened to our audience. We stopped posting all of those things. Spent 2 years creating a film just to be like, yeah, isn't it? Cool. cool. Here's a combination of everything that we've done over the last few years, where everybody was moaning about X, Y, and Z. Do you know what we did? We learned, we created system, we upskilled people. The same people that came through our development program ended up working on the film. Do you understand what I'm saying? We studied, and now we're coming back with a whole year-long development program where we've got 4 people in 3 times a week as part of our core program. We've got another 4 people that come in once a week as part of our emergent talent program, in order to get these people to a point where it's like, oh, you think the people from 2 years ago were shit? At least I've got a writer now that I can send into a room with them to help them write their thing properly before they come onto our platform. It's what you said. There's something wrong with the system. This is meant to go from here and lead to there. We're getting feedback from there. So what are we going to do about this feedback? Are we just going to like keep going and
Just
be
going to
blind
change
to
the
it?
person and hope that fixes it. and the hope
We
that
tried
maybe
that.
it'll fix
It didn't.
It
The
won't.
issue
It
wasn't
just
the
won't.
person.
Nope.
The issue was actually like the end result that people are
It
receiving.
comes from the end result doesn't come from the person. It comes from
What did they go
Yeah.
through? It's
Yeah.
very different. Like,
and that goes into literally perfectly. Like, it's the process. Like, if they're not 100%, that's fine. You can't get 100% every time anyway. You would rather just get 70% and make sure that you get that every single time.
Yeah.
If you can get 70% of the result every single time, and it's consistently that over, you get 100% and then you get 90.
Yeah.
The audience is going to look, what the hell? Like, even though it's 90%,
Consistency
they're
is
just going to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
What actually is this?
Consistency.
So if you're consistent, I think that, like, across the board, regardless, is always going to it is going to outdo being just phenomenal, unless it's in a system where being just phenomenal once is actually pays
well,
off.
man, yeah.
And if you can find that system, let me know. I'll go.
Oh,
I'll
man.
go flip it. let me know. I'll do something one time perfect,
Exactly
and
what
I'll
you're
get a
saying.
milli.
Exactly what you're saying. There's an artist who I work with who, for the last like 2 years ago, was like, oh yeah, like you want to apply for this award thing. Da 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 da. We had a conversation with that artist, right? And they were very excited about the opportunity to put themselves forward for it. But the conversation was around, yes, it's exciting that they're shouting us right now, but we haven't been through the process. You could go through and put yourself forward. However, see some of the other people that might end up getting put forward, they've been through that process. It's like getting asked to just come in, yeah, do you want to do this fight last minute without having a previous plan ahead. See, now, 2 years ago, we bookmarked that. One day, BBC introducing Artist of the Year award. We're going to win that. But that doesn't need to happen now because we got asked. That's part of our 3, 4, 5 year plan. Do you know what that artist has been doing over the last 2 years? Because we know that eventually we're trying to go for that. Bro, the artist has played just under, stop counting, like probably played around 80 to 90 shows.
Is he looking at BBC Introduced anymore? Is he even worried about it?
Why?
Exactly.
You know how much income that generates?
He's not worried about it.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but
if it
when
was
we go
focused on
back,
that,
if you were focused on that, you'd be trying to do that, and then you're forgetting that, like, mate, there's so many
much
other things that you
development.
can figure out.
Yep.
Mate, someone could call me today and ask for that artist to perform today in flipping Kilimanjaro. The artist is ready because
ready.
they are practiced. They're playing 3, 4 shows a month, getting paid for those shows,
Exactly.
getting better into
Them getting
rapping
that
with
BBC Producing Award isn't going to make them qualified to actually do it. Them doing it is what's going to make them qualified.
Imagine winning an award and then now everybody's looking at you like, what's this?
Yeah, because you've not done. Yeah, you've not done.
Bro,
Yeah.
I'm not doing those things, man. I do not want to get put forward for things just because you need to do your tick box exercise. And this isn't what I'm saying that the BBC did, but this is like a grand scheme energy that I have. And even if you put me forward and I'm getting into there because of that, see, by the time I've left, the impact, the result, the thing that I have brought to this, where you undermined me initially, you'll never undermine me again. You'll probably be a little bit scared.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Just to take it back to like that whole undermining thing and to just kind of point out that, like, yeah, don't be in a rush, as well. Always say to artists, don't be in a rush, man. When it comes to this music thing, man, this is This is your shot at creating generational wealth. You create a track and you own the master and which is like your copyright essentially. You own the master to that. That is yours for 80 years after you've died. Do you know what that means? That means that like from the moment that you make that music, you register it with PRS, which is only 100 quid. And if you make music, you should register to PRS because you make that money back. 30 quid if you're under 25. I do not get paid for them, by them. But the point I'm trying to make is that like if you make music, register it, tour it, play it, it goes out there in the world. 80 years after you've passed, that money is still generating money. I mean, that music is still generating money. Yeah. So essentially what you're doing right now, if you get your system, your business, your paperwork in order, your grandchildren could potentially still receiving residual income from the shit that you did.
Yeah.
Do you know how beautiful that is to me? That's partially why I do what I do. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm tired of moaning and complaining that things are the way that they are, and we need other people to help us to make them better.
Yeah.
I'm tired of those things. I'm tired of feeling like I need to wait on someone in order to help me. Tired of those things. I'm tired of feeling helpless.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know, when I realized that I can actually change all of that is when I started engaging. I started learning. I started being a student.
Yeah.
Studying like, I'm just getting it wrong.
Yeah, I think
scared to get it wrong.
I think getting it wrong is what people are usually scared of. I'd say I used to definitely be scared of it in a sense that I just wanted to make it perfect the first time, rather than just having it consistently something and then improving small.
Yeah.
And I'd say that even a question that you should maybe ask artists as well is like, if they come to, I've got this amazing song, you just say, do you want to be a one-hit wonder? And most artists will just they will say, of course not, because being a one-hit wonder is like what's that to anybody? What's that to you? One-hit wonder. Okay, they stop listening to your song. Yeah. Now and you've only been able to make that song once. You can't replicate it. Why not replicate a song that you can make multiple times? It's going to have the same effect and same impact. Might not be as good as that song, but unless you can replicate that consistently, you're just going to be a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, you want to be, man.
You want to actually be that thing, and I think I learned that as well. Flipping recently, it's not as if I've known that all the time, because the last year when I was dived head first into the Scottish Championships boxing, it was definitely a lot. Part of it was ego driven, and I rushed it because in my head it was like if I just do that, then that's going to solidify this, that, and the next thing. Whereas this year, I had no. If I was able to go into it, I would have, which I probably was able to go into. But if I was like, oh, let's get you into this, I would have went into it. But I didn't care if I didn't go into it. And the reason I didn't care was because I don't need that to prove that I'm a good boxer or that because the work that I was doing out with it. Now, I'd be more confident now jumping into the Scottish than I was last year jumping into the Scottish. But last year, I just had that drive and thought that I put that thing on a pedestal. I put that on so much of a pedestal that it meant so much to me that, yes, I went in there and I performed well, but that wasn't even close to the best that I would have been able to be had I just put in that, just said, I forget about that, that's not what's important. What's important is me actually being a good boxer, having all the good foundations, making sure week to week I'm doing the right things.
Yes.
Rather than I'm just rushing everything into one clumped up thing in one go and then take that'll do, throw that out.
Did you know and have a plan after winning the Scottish? Like, was the step, you've won the Scottish Championship? What?
Do you know what I'm saying?
You know why
won the
people
Scottish
always
Championship and then I would have won it and then I've been sat there like.
And that's
damn.
why people, I've oftentimes realized people chase. And that's why I've chased in the past.
Yeah, of course.
Mate, if I get this artist, this show, that's then going to open that up.
You still do it in small scale, I'm sure, but you've realised yourself now that it's not the artist, it's not the this, it's not the that, it's not that.
It's
that's
not.
on them. Like I couldn't give even before, so I'd fought in the Western District, it was called. I came second in that, and I was fighting someone that, on paper, should never have been fighting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have even come. Like, I had like 40 fights, 40, 50 fights, and I'm here with like, I think I had 9 fights at the time, and I'm there giving him a hard time. It was a split decision. The ref was about to lift my hand because he thought it was me, but it went the other way, unfortunately, and he had to lift his hand, and that's fine. I shouldn't even be in that category at all, and I was there competing with them.
Yep.
Sound. So I know that I'm good enough for that, but that doesn't mean that I now just think that I'm good enough to just do it all the time. No, I need to make sure that I actually have a plan and system in place to get there, and then not just that I can do that all the time consistently, plus knowing that, yes, like you said, there's something that's going to come after. What's going to come after?
What's after? Like,
Are you just going to, because, and this is the thing, when you have that mentality of this is the thing, and you get to that point and you win or lose it, because there's no next step, you just become fat. You just become fat. You lose. You put back all that weight. You don't do the training anymore that you were meant to be doing. You don't do all of those things because there was no plan.
Yeah, there was no plan, and I can tell how like not having that plan will then leave you to get discouraged and have like less motivation. And you need to have a plan, mate. Like, that's a lot of the stuff that I speak to artists about. You could ask me what the plan is for Eve till 2029. I know it.
And that means
why is Eve not playing internationally?
We tried, but it doesn't matter. There's more things coming anyway that we're also aiming for. That's not the only thing we need
That
to
isn't
do.
the...
Like,
that's
okay, maybe it was part of the plan. We didn't get it. Cool. There's still more things. We need
see
to
the
get
shiny belt. Like, it goes back to like something. Like, see the idea of winning.
Yep.
Winning is like, see that feeling of winning? It is so short.
Yep.
And you bask in it. That's why I celebrate my wins, mate. Sometimes you just hear me screaming this because I got a certain email that confirmed something through.
You've got 2 seconds to celebrate it, and then you're moving on.
And then you're back to work. You win a championship. Are you always celebrating for 10 weeks, or are you back in the
damn gym? You should be
back in the damn gym.
You should be back in the gym.
That's the process.
You should be,
because the wins happen in the gym. The preparation happens in the gym. It's the same thing with what we're doing here. This is our gym.
Yep. And how do you think you go on?
Where you look at these shiny opportunities of playing on big stages and stuff like that, that's the championship. But the championship isn't won there in the ring on the stage, is it? It's one on the preparation, the way you eat, your mentality, your rigor, your plan of action. You study your opponent. That's what frustrates me a lot of times when I work with people where it's like, oh, I'm trying to build this skyscraper, but what's foundation? Like, what's the foundation?
We'll worry about the foundation later.
Oh yeah, we'll worry about the foundation after we've see when we're doing the roofing.
Get to the top.
Yeah, we get to the top,
and then
we'll go back.
Because if we don't get that
to the top, we don't know we can get to the top. So what we do is
we
build the top, and then once the top is built, we'll send someone
to go and fix the foundation afterwards, because now we have the money at the top now to be able to send it down to help them fix the foundations. And then if they now come and say, oh, by the way, I need to break down this whole building, you're going, what? Why?
The part that kills me is that, like, the skyscraper wouldn't stand if you didn't have the foundation. A lot of times people are coming to me and asking me, oh, can you manage me? Can you do this? And I'm telling them that what you're trying to do is build a Zaha Hadid building. I want me to do that for you, but you don't even understand the cement mix. Can we talk about the cement mix first? Because like the cement mix that you're using for the foundation, plus what you're trying to build on top of that, your building is sinking.
And the best part will be but I don't need to worry about that, so let's just hire someone to do the cement mix, but without telling them what it is you're trying to even build. So they'll just build a cement mix for what? A flipping brick wall, thinking you're going to build a brick wall, and you're trying to build a skyscraper on this cement mix, but they've not mixed it properly.
They've not mixed
because
it
they don't even know what you're trying to build. Because you don't even know what you're trying to build.
You're trying to build. So sometimes it's okay to not know what you're trying to build.
It's fine.
You remember me coming home after uni with papers upon papers upon papers, sketches over, just to try and figure out how to build this thing.
Just to figure it out.
Bro, do you know sometimes when artists come in here and they're like trying to record a hit record, on a beat that they've heard for the first time,
Yeah.
and they do one recording of it and then ask for a mix and master.
Yeah, nah.
I feel like I'm robbing them. I'll be honest with you. I feel like
yeah,
I'm robbing them,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like you've got these high expectations of what this is going to do without actually putting in.
You think it's the beat? You think it's your bars?
You think it's your bars.
You think it's the beat? You think
Or
it's the producer?
You think everybody's going to feel that same?
No.
You thought that you thought that like, oh, it's just Drake posting on his Instagram that like I've got something coming out, and there isn't a whole army of people that are dealing with this. You want me, a singular manager, to get you the same results?
Yeah, from a post on your story with 400 followers. Good luck.
You want me to get you the same results that H is getting with millions invested in him, with a whole team. Let's start with
The guy's got a marketing team. The guy's got a team for his marketing team.
not a marketing person.
Exactly, a marketing team. People think, like, what, independent artist. Yeah, he's probably an independent artist. Yeah, you could say independent artist, but I tell you that team probably, that list is probably bigger than the Bible. Do you know what I mean? Like he probably, in fact, I know even Drake doesn't know how big his own team is probably, because he doesn't have to know. Yes, but he's at that stage where he doesn't have to know. You need to know what it takes to actually get to the first stage. Do you know what I mean? Because there's people that are running marketing that I know, that I see within social media marketing industry for Drake, but I'm sure Drake don't know them. Never heard of them.
People getting hired because of.
And him posting that story has a knock-on effect and is boosted by all of that that's behind them. It's not just him posting that story. Like that's the easy part.
Yeah.
Posting
now
the story.
It's easy.
Now it's easy.
Coming from Canada, trying to make it in the States, having to rent cars to look the part, and all of
probably
these
going
different
broke,
things.
trying to do parts of these things, making the wrong moves, making
and
the
Drake
right
had
moves.
money. So now imagine how much investment that was put in order to get to that point. And I think like no matter what you really do, man, no matter what you do, like you cannot, like even if you believe that you are the prodigal savior, do you know what beats talent, man? Work, bro. Work beats talent, man. You just need to clock in your days. It doesn't even matter. Just clock in your fucking days. Like clock in your days. Be a student, no matter what it is that you're wanting to do, and conduct your flipping business, man. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like there's no sugarcoating it. Like a lot of times entrepreneurship, and like I don't even call myself an entrepreneur either. Like because it's like I'm not at that stage. I work across multiple, and I've got multiple entities. When I'm 40, 50,
saying you're an entrepreneur, what does that grant you?
When I'm 40, 50, and I've got like stock sitting there, and I can be like, yo, see that, think that, all right, cool, let's come in together, let's put, but it comes out of that respect and understanding of what people do before calling yourself that, man. That's for me anyway. Like,
and you don't need to call yourself that to be that. It's just, you just become that. Do you know what I mean? Like people think that, because I say I'm an entrepreneur, because I say I do music, that you are that. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe there's shades of that you are, but at the end of the day, like you wouldn't have to say that you are that. Yeah, really, if you were that. Do you know what I mean?
What do you want out of what?
Yeah, what do you want? Like, what do you want?
What does it look like this year? What does it look like next year? What does it look like in 5, 10 years?
Yeah, it's not a big deal if it interrupts.
What does it look like in 5, 10 years? Hey man, we're doing an interview. I'll be next door, yeah? What does it look like 5, 10 years from now? What does it look like 5, 10 years from now? What are your big aims and aspirations?
Yeah.
And where does that plot in?
And where does, yes, exactly. Because
what does it look like when you're 40, 50, 60? What does it like?
And people think that's not important. Like people genuinely, unfortunately, think that it's not important to plan things. It's just important to do things. It's like, plan it and do it straight away. And then when you're doing it, you realize, I can shift this in the plan, I can shift this in the plan. But if you're just doing it without planning, what happens, I'd say, especially because you were saying, like, if you're this, you want to do, if you're going to do it without a plan, which you already said you need a plan anyway, if you're going to do it without a plan, once you get to a point where you're doing it and you've perfected it, a lot of the times people will just only want to do that because they've perfected it and it's easy
Oh,
to
yeah.
do. You need to realize and understand at what point how perfect does it need to be. Everything doesn't need to be perfect, but 70%, 80%. What's your number of percent perfect it needs to be? Cool. That's enough. Move on to the next thing that's at 0, and let's build that up. And then move on to the next thing, and let's build that
I need
up.
to get
And then
better at
all of
doing
a
it that
sudden,
way.
all of a sudden, you've got everything.
I need to get better at doing it that way because sometimes I work in a way where it's like, well, I'm watching 3 of you at the moment, and but I feel like sometimes I work in a way where I'm spreading myself across too many things, and the way that I have overcome that is by being able to, I need to get better at delegating, but creating the spaces for me to then be able to like direct people towards. So example, loads of people always ask me to work with them on the music stuff. Back in the day, maybe 3 years ago, the process would be us sitting down together, figuring out your long-term plan, da 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 da. Now, the process is, I've created a whole framework for artist development in the studio. Go in there first. Let's figure out what you're about musically. And like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's been,
Yeah.
you find ways to overcome these things. I want to ask you a question. Like, what is that process been for you? Like, going from school, 16, I think you did like a college thing, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like what was that like for you, and figuring out what you're wanting to do whilst everybody is giving you one option?
Yeah, that was, so I'd say, yeah, so I did that course at college. Yeah, when I think you're right, I think it was when I was 16. It was like automotive engineering or something, and I went and I done it, and it was enjoyable. I really, really did enjoy it. It's not as if I didn't. They wanted me to come back, do an extra year. I got an award, all this, lot of things. But while doing that, I realised that, well, okay, maybe it's not automotive engineering that I want to do. Like, I want to work with my hands. Fine, I can work with my hands. But it doesn't need to be automotive engineering. So then it was like, okay, cool, you don't want to do that. And that was sort of the first aspect where mum even said, go and like just do that, because obviously I was sort of like not sure about uni back then as well.
Yeah.
And although uni was the only option, and then I did that, and because I did that and I didn't want to continue with that, it was like, okay, well, it's uni. And then I was like, damn, okay, I need to figure something out. And then I got another opportunity of doing an apprenticeship, which meant I could go study plus work with my hands on aircraft. So I tried to get into that. Didn't work. Cool. They said I needed qualification. Went and got the qualification. Went back. And the second time, actually, it was just stuff to do with like Brexit and all that. And it was just the worst, probably.
Which they actually got wrong, but hey.
They got it wrong, is what it is. Not going to linger on it. But anyway, then I managed to get another way anyway, which was probably, looking back, hindsight's always 20/20. But I went there after, and I'll go back, but I went there, worked on the aircraft for years, realised that, I do enjoy the aircraft as well. It's definitely better than the cars, but it still ain't it.
Yeah.
So had I got into that apprenticeship, I would have been locked in for 5 years. So now I would have spent 5 years of my life doing something that I realised within less than 2 years that, damn, I want bigger, right?
Yeah.
But saying that, being at a point where it was like only uni that I was pretty much allowed to do, and having an unconditional offer to go to uni, and turning that down,
Yeah.
it was definitely a struggle and a stress. And I, in that moment, realised that whatever it is I'm going to do, it's going to work, not because I want it to work, but because it has to work.
Yeah, you'll find
And
a way.
regardless of, and I think that's why I was sort of relentless with the apprenticeship thing and getting into Ryanair and those things, because while I was getting into that, in my head, I still knew that, okay, I'm still going to do something bigger, and I know uni is going to take away from that. So I'd rather do something that allows me the capabilities to do more. So I think I just had to be relentless and just, yes, the expectation was uni, but I managed to find something that was looked at the same regard.
Yeah.
And then I just pushed towards that. And although I made mistakes along the way, and although maybe I could have done things better this way or that way, and there was things that I couldn't necessarily control with the whole Brexit thing and things like maybe those things were like things I couldn't really control, but I didn't stop after that second time of getting turned back.
Yeah.
Even though I had everything, I just had it too late, and actually I was meant to get that job, but one of the staff just got impatient, didn't want to wait on the document I was waiting for, so sent me an email saying that I'm not getting it, and then I don't know, well, they must have got a scolding by the boss, because the boss was like, did I tell you to do that? Like, I didn't tell you to do that. Why? You need to fix this. And obviously it was too late to fix it at that point. So what was I going to do? Sit there and go, well, it's over. Like, my life's over. No, I just had to kick on and go on with the next thing. So I'd say when you're asking like, how was it? It was tough. It wasn't easy, but I never went into expecting it to be easy or expecting me to be able to just get from 0 to 100 straight away without doing certain things. And learning and realising, like, cool, now I'm in this position. It's not the position I was looking to be in, but how can I use this to then still benefit me? And I did that. I was getting 3 months off in the summer. I was headed to Egypt. I went twice in the summer when I had the opportunity to educate myself on something new during those 3 months, while maybe other people would have been going on holiday and complaining about their situation, but then just going on holiday during these 3 months. In fact, I went on holiday plus learned during those 3 months, which allowed me to then get into a position where I could sort of leave there, and I left in a way that allowed me to have more breathing space. And then, again, hindsight's 2020. Maybe I would have done a couple things different, but that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, no.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
You learn from that.
From that.
Next time you're in a situation like that, you know how to handle it.
However, people want to do things perfectly the first time, and that stops them from being able to realise that actually you want to make mistakes.
Bro.
Because if you make mistakes, you make them mistakes, you mess up, you figure out a system to make sure that next time it's automatically you don't mess up.
Yeah.
You are winning. That person might be making loads, but all it takes for them is to hit a point where they're now back where you are because of circumstance. And they don't know what. In fact, they're 1 step behind you now, or 2 steps behind you, but they don't know how to get even 1 step forward because they skipped the steps. And people are too concerned in just trying to skip steps. And I think that's what it was. Like for me, I didn't have a choice, to be fair. I had to go through all the steps. Imagine me turning around to my mum, I'm not doing uni and I'm not doing my job without anything. Good luck.
That would have been a different conversation, I believe. And I feel like it's also because, like, so a few things that I want to point out. Like, what I think is amazing about you is how you very much are just like, well, I'm not going to do that. But you're not the sort of person that's like, I'm not going to do that and I'm doing nothing. That I'm not going to do that oftentimes comes out of a place that like you've already got other things that are processing that you might have not fully arrived yet. So the answer is, I'm not going to do that, which is okay. And I feel like hearing that as an older brother or as a parent who's got like a lot of care without having that extra context of like, well, but I'm also thinking about that, you worry, you know?
Because I wasn't saying nothing to no one.
You weren't saying nothing to nobody.
And in my head, because and I think maybe that's the problem that arises now as well, is like when I get told, even within business right now, there's been occasions where it's like, oh, go and do that, and I'm like, no, because actually, if we do these things that I was talking about 3 months ago, this one wouldn't be a problem, and 2, it would solve itself. So if we just do this thing now, this as a problem doesn't exist, and all these other problems also get solved from just putting energy into that thing, rather than trying to solve the issue by itself. Like, oh, this is an issue, you should go and fix this issue. Like, no, I'll fix this issue, which then fixes this issue automatically, plus other issues. And it's hard to articulate that, I guess.
Yeah, like, it is hard to articulate that.
Like, what am I meant to say to mum? Like, I'm not going to uni, mum, but I'm telling you, I'm gonna be making X amount per week in my business. Like, she's gonna be like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you gonna? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go sell drugs? That's probably. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
going back to like what you said about people undermining. Just because you don't say it doesn't mean that you don't know. You know? And then also going back to that pressure of education. As you know yourself, within like in the Black community, like especially here. in the West, in Europe or US, wherever people are watching from, education is the cornerstone of our community a lot of times when it's about like being able to give your children a better starting point or positionality without finance, without anything else. There's a
Yep.
system, as we were talking about, that is, it might not always lead to the top.
No, it doesn't need
However,
to. Don't need
this
to.
is a system that shows you, and this is a tried and tested system.
Yep.
This is a system that our parents went through in order to achieve mobility. And then, as I said, with mum, after doing all of that, being a deputy head, respected school, all of that, in Germany, learning a whole different language because it isn't being accepted there.
Yeah.
Then moving over here, already working in a nursery that's like doing bits out there, right? Working in education. You know what I'm saying? Like young children coming over here and then getting told, well, that isn't enough.
Yeah.
So now imagine like her mentality of like you then turning around and being like, mate, all my experiences have been, I've got this piece of paper, I'm going for this position, I'm overly qualified, and I'm still getting turned down. So what does my son, what chance do they have? Because as I said, again, like it's the cornerstone.
What chance do they have without the piece of paper?
Without the
and I
piece of
got the
paper.
piece of paper, and that's the only reason they even looked at it.
They even looked at it. So it's like when it comes to a lot of that, like I'm like, I had to understand this education thing. So I was like, why education? Over time, you just realize that's like, man, the way society is set up, that is the passageway.
Yep.
Because
yep.
oftentimes we just get looked at and you just get put into a box anyway. So
Yeah.
if you've got this one thing that's equal across the board, if I get to 1-1, it means that person, it stands at the same. But then also we realize that society actually doesn't really stick to those things. So even if you do all of those things and you do work hard, you might still find yourself in a position where like none of those things actually matter. So
But I wouldn't let that beat you up, obviously.
you don't let that beat you up because like that was our example. Like we've never like it's never like our parents it didn't let
Yeah, nothing
let it beat
nothing
them up.
beat our parents.
you
up.
just keep
nothing.
they just keep going.
Just kept
Like,
going as if nothing happened. And sometimes I'd be thinking, I'd be like, am I the only one that's seeing this? Like what? Like and I'd see everybody around just acting as if nothing actually happened, and I'd be like,
that can be
am I tripping right now? Like, are
people
we
surviving
seeing, are we
as well,
seeing
man.
the same
People,
thing?
people surviving as well, and it's also remembering that like your experience is very different to mom's experience. Like
Exactly. And like you said yourself at the beginning, like went from someone in a market not able to read to now standing here being able to do all of these things. Mum's basically, and mum and dad have enabled these things from a place away that we can just categorically say away back here to here by doing specific things.
Yeah.
So for them, they think, well, if you just keep doing these things, you'll be able to get here.
And
And
you
it
will.
makes sense, and you will, and it makes sense. However, because they've only known that, and they want us to copy that, it's difficult to do other things. Although these other things can actually even make those things quicker. You jump to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing quicker by just putting in a lot of hard work to begin with, and it might be slow to begin with, and there's no real process to it, but you're making the process to then be able to use that process to continuously just grow, which is fine. But explaining that to someone who's had a process that works, tried and tested, and it's like, this knife works, and you're like, yeah, but I want to make my own knife. Or this car works, but I want to make my own car.
Yeah.
But this car works. It's like that, yeah, okay, the car works. I respect and understand the car works, and we should make cars like that maybe, and I'll take aspects of that car, but I got a bigger vision.
Yeah.
And trying to explain that to someone is difficult.
Yeah.
It really is, especially if you can't show anything. Like they've got
can't show
shown
nothing.
proof.
Oh, yeah,
They've got proof
100%.
that this worked. And you're going to turn around as a child and tell them, nah.
That's where the patience comes into it from though. And I think like I'm proud of you, like just the way that you're approaching things and like just being a student. And it's not a case of like it's not like you're snobby towards education. It's just a case of that like that pathway of education wasn't for you. May you read more than majority of folk that I know, even probably more than people that are actually in education studying, you know? And the one thing that I'll definitely say, and the one thing that's helped me over time is, may be a fan of people that are doing the things that you
Yeah,
are
I think that's
wanting to and hoping to do. Ask them about how they did it, what were the shortfalls, what were the, in order to create and get to where they get to. I'm a fan of people, man. I study what people are doing. Like, I could tell you about, like, honestly, like, what I'm saying? Like, I watch, I'm like, oh shit, I just remembered that, like, 6 months ago, they did this thing that didn't make sense, but that was the layup to this.
Yep.
And then I'm also that annoying person that also just contact them and be like, yo, I love what you're doing. Let's get a conversation. Can you give me a little bit more? People do want to help. If you've got like a solid set of mentors that have went down that pathway that you've went down on, you will always be able to like just
replicate.
you'll be able to replicate, continue and build from there, And that's the one thing that's always helped me, I think. Having people that encourage me to do this, Sammy being one of them. Prior to that, Olivia Strang, who you know and met, who like before I even wanted to do music, she's just like, man, you're interested, come, come, see that, come, gave me a view around things to understand that like there's so much more than the thing. And I was big man. I was in Germany at a flipping festival with Hudson Mohawk. Like he came to. I'll tell the story another time, but getting that experience through people that like they're like, yo, you're interested in this and you're showing an interest, come. It changes everything for me.
It does.
Having people that I can reach out to in Liverpool that are building something similar to what I'm trying to get to in a few years from now. All of those things, having someone that you can pick up the phone to and run to. What? They're trying to...
Yeah, share Lewis.
Having that, honestly, it changed everything for me, mate. It shifted everything for me because it went from people telling me no to then me being able to pick up the phone. And luckily I'm part of a network called the Power Up Network, which is 400, well, it's black musicians and industry professionals all across the UK that I can just pick up the phone to and be like, yo, how did you deal with that?
After someone's told you no, you can't do that, it's like, well, there's 20 people that said that have done it, so let me go chat to them instead.
Man, this whole I've been going on about having people that look like us in those positions, on stages, on X, Y, and Z, bro. I do not exclusively work with black people. However, I know what my mandate is. I know the space that I'm creating. You understand what I'm saying? So,
yeah, speaking to those people that have,
yeah, having conversations with the people that have done it, like, mate, see, these programs, like, that we're developing, especially for the professionals, they're based off of the system that I went through that was created by Sami, and Sami is that one person that like when he sees talent or sees potential, he will find a way to create the space. Big man, I had no business going into music. It's my tenacity. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
It is my,
It's just your way, the way that you operate as well.
That's the way that I operate, mate.
And I think I learned that very recently again as well. And then I think what you said helped with that was that it doesn't for me now especially, it's not the business model or the business niche or that isn't what matters anymore. Like for me, I'd be very confident to go in any business, any niche, any whatever it is, and actually make an impact that will generate. If their aim is to generate more income, I can do that. If their aim is to improve their training, I can do that. If they're whatever problems they have, and being able to fit into that, it doesn't matter. Like I said, it doesn't matter what niche, what we're doing. I know I'm able to walk into any building and actually bring an impact.
Yep.
Just based off of the way that I sort of operate
And now
on
it's
a
about
small scale, so to speak.
And now it's about getting that, as I said, putting in those hours. You need to repeat. You need to have that track record of being able to do that. Like, big man, I book a festival. The reason why, it's because I am, honestly, mate, the amount of shows that I've been a part of over the years, the amount of shows that I've put on, the amount of nights that I've ran, it's because of putting the hours. And at the time, people are like, oh, why are you working with the artists? Why are you working with the artists? Why? Oh, their shit, you should be paying attention. Do you know all of that? See me going through all of that and picking up and understanding is the reason why I can book an international tour now. See the artists that might not even be around anymore. I didn't expect them to change my life. Everything that I do is a learning curve. It's a learning mission. Me being a manager, I never set out to be a manager. It's because of that is what I need to learn and gain an understanding of in order to go into the best. But oh, you're actually pretty alright at this. Let me keep doing this. Let me find a way to build a system, build a framework, build a passageway for other people to do that. My long-term vision, big man. My long-term vision, like honestly, like as I said, like I'm not interested in someone being like, oh, here is X amount. I'm really interested in like proper investment that where 5, 10 years from now I can look back and be like, oft. See that thing that I did in Scotland back then, like was just a part of figuring out and building infrastructure framework. Oh my God, it's still working, and I will be elsewhere at that point, figuring.
And it's still working, and it's benefiting
It's
me
still
plus
working.
a bunch of others.
And a bunch of other people. Oh my God, the company that I now run, like because of these initiatives that are set up in Scotland, like I have a tour manager that's ready.
I can use that
They're
initiative.
coming through. Boom. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm thinking about. I understand in order for me to compete in the way that I want to compete within this industry, I am nowhere near. I need an army of people. I'm studying and looking at what's happening in London and Manchester and Liverpool and Dublin and looking at the different organizations that are actually making that shift. What are the organizations that the labels are attracted to working with? What is it that those organizations are doing? How long did it take them to get to that point? Where am I within that?
And then if you can get direct conversations with them and they tell you, oh, I made this mistake, which cost me 2 years, and now you knock 2 years off of that, now we're talking.
Big man. See some of the stuff that people say like, oh, I can't get this, I can't get that. It's like,
you can't get it now.
Oh yeah, you can't get it now. How long have you been doing it? Well, this is my third attempt. Oh my God, before I landed that, it took me 5 years. And you know what I did during that time period? I made sure that I was letting people know and causing enough ruckus in order to then make it a little bit easier for the next people coming through.
Which actually makes it easier for you as well.
Makes it easier for me.
Because it allows someone else to be able to even maybe come through and then create another path that you are going to create, but now it's been created by someone else. Now you can walk that path and you already know what you need to do at this path, so then you just move, it just makes things quicker. I think, yeah.
I'm not trying to be the savior, man. I'm just
You
trying
don't
to
need to be
within,
the
I'm just trying to work
You can
with
just make something and everybody could be a savior for the damn
I
self.
just want to be within and work within something that works. And I do have something. If I do have an idea of something I want to do, like even if it takes 5 years, like I'll find a way. Like even if it isn't exactly the way that I wanted to do it, I do need to see things through. And I am a scatterhead, and people are like always like, "Oh man, like why you da." See, in the short term, I am like that. If you pay attention to my long term and pay attention to how I've been over the last 5 to 10 years and the things that I've been doing, I've never swayed from my long term. My long term has always been the way that I've got this plan, and that's just the way that I think. I do things in the short term, day to day. I do things in the long term.
But you know both.
I know both.
Yes,
I
you
know
need
both
to know
100%.
both, like-
I know both.
yeah.
And it's like not to get discouraged by the short term losses.
not.
You know,
You need to put the car in first gear, or you're not getting to 100
you're
miles
not
per hour.
getting there. I remember getting told like, oh yeah, but like your artists never play live. My artists never play live, yeah? My artists never play live, yeah? Alright, cool. The same person that told me this years ago, I was able to just update them about like, oh yeah, they were asking me what you're up to, Well, across both my artists over the last 2 years, we did 100+ shows. We've played internationally, wrote to the whole. So see that thing that like my artists weren't ready for.
Yep.
They're coming to me now.
Yep.
Oh yeah, let's get dinner sometime.
Oh, really?
That's what the Donny said to me. Let's get dinner sometime.
Yeah,
so
it's
I don't
on
get
you.
annoyed when people tell me things like that anymore.
Yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
think
like the vocal, the mix and master.
When
Thank you. Yeah. Wait till I come back. You just give me a game.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
if that's the only thing,
and I solved that thing, and now
Come,
that
give me
thing's
another one.
solved. Give me another one.
give me another one.
I'm telling you, because it's like also when people will say, but this, and then you fix that and you sort that. But this, and then you fix that and you sort that. They're just going to keep saying but this, so you may as well just keep fixing it and sorting it till you don't need that person or that whatever it is. You can just go ahead and do it yourself. Now it's like, you're seeing these things as stops and complaints, and you don't want to learn from this. You just want to go, just fire that person and put someone else in their place. Whereas I'm learning, and it's like, now I can have the worst of the worst employees off the street and build a better business than you're building, because yours relies on people. And all it takes for them good employees that are very good at what they do, all it takes for them is to now go, all right, well, I'm not doing this anymore, or I'm doing this on my own. Now they leave. Now you need to go find someone else like them. What's harder, finding someone that's talented already, ready-made, versus being able to get someone who's at zero and you can take them up there the time without fail. All the time without fail.
I'm more interested in the second one, taking someone from, if you look at the people that I work with, the artists that I work with, the only artists that I work with are people, is Joel. See, everybody else, they're the underdogs. Everybody else is at a stage where it's like, I can tell the talent, I can tell that they've got a story to tell, but they like, on paper, they haven't done they don't have as many years on them. Do you know what they have? They've got me. They've got me, and what I mean by that is that I'm not going to do it for them. I'm going to take you through that process
and show and prove how it's done.
Exactly, and getting you to that point. And like, that's a lot more interesting for me. Like, I'm a
100%.
lot more interested in getting an artist that's like at 10% and getting them to 60% than getting an artist who's at 60% and getting them, or an artist who's at 80% and getting them to 100%.
Definitely.
That's more interesting to me. Like, way more interesting.
Because, and that's alchemy. That's turning water into wine. That's turning nothing into something. Like, that's what that is. Whereas if you've just constantly got something, all it takes is for that something to run out of supply. Like, the same way, we can even extrapolate this into oil. Like, it's oil. If someone figured out how to just make oil, imagine someone figured out a system to make oil. Imagine you figured out a system to just make oil, and you then have to go find it. It's like, you now need to keep going find it. All right, that oil's going to run out. What now?
Big man, if you found the system and how to make oil, it would never come out, because you'd be gone, assassinated, gone. Everyone that knows you, because there's too many people that benefit from an existing system. So, again, if you know how to make oil, you better keep your mouth
keep it to yourself,
and you figure out a way that you can benefit the people that are, or you figure out a system where you're fully protected.
Like I said, you keep that one to yourself. Make sure your mum just gets free petrol and you'll be alright, mate. But genuinely, I think that's. And I'm glad that I had this conversation, because it sometimes feels as if I'm going like mad almost, and as if that way where it's like people think that I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't usually talk. It's like, alright, no worries, but I'm still going to keep talking, unfortunately. So you're just either going to have to listen and we do it now, or we have to do it later, and you have the resentment of you are wrong. We didn't have to find out that you are wrong. You could have let me be wrong. And okay, maybe I wouldn't have been wrong, but that's good, because then we just did the right thing the first time. Versus now, I'm in a situation where it's like, we just need to do the wrong thing constantly over again. But that's still better than arguing about who's right and wrong, wasting all that time, then doing the wrong thing, then doing the right thing. Let's just do the wrong thing and then do the right thing. And then eventually we'll maybe just keep doing the right thing.
Sometimes it's better like doing it like that way, you know. You don't always need to prove the point, as you said. It's like, I'd rather figure out how to get there in a way that this can be a smooth getting there, so that next time we don't need to like, what's the support that you need, what is it that you don't understand, and that's my approach.
I need to change my approach, man. I just be like, mum's like, you better do this, and I'm like, okay. So I'm just like, you better do this.
Man, my approach is very much like, as I said, helping people arrive there, helping people understand, you know. And mate, if you can make someone believe that was their idea.
That's what I've been doing recently.
Has an idea of like, you know what I'm saying? If you can make them, not even just believe, but make them feel like it was actually their original part of it. The way that I approach ideas, I know with music as well, is that like, no idea is originally yours, mate. Like, you just put yourself into an environment, and I got that from Rick Rubin, actually.
Right.
Ideas are floating around. It's about how you can put yourself into that environment, that mentality, that headspace to be able to receive those ideas. See, once you shifted to that, it doesn't matter whose idea it is. It's about the idea. It's about the idea. How can we make that idea the best thing? Does it work? Rather than saying it should be
it's my
this.
idea. I just want my idea, but this is my idea. Okay, nobody cares
Exactly.
about your idea or your opinion.
It doesn't
really.
always
It's
need
just,
to
just
be.
go, exactly. It doesn't need to be you. It needs to just whoever. Cool, that's the best opinion, best idea, best thing. They have a framework. Okay, let's go with it.
Yeah, man, let's go with it. And patience, man. Patience, tenacity, honestly. And just be hungry, Tawfiq. You are hungry. And it's just
Ramadan,
like, it's just all like, man, things have been ingrained in us, innit? There is just no, you know? And
There's
even,
there's no.
and there's no one way of doing things or
multiple.
right or like, like Sidia's literally went down the route of,
She's a flagship child, man.
yeah, man, she's the flagship child. And I don't mind ending on that, man.
Well, I was
Or
gonna end
even
on something
Julia.
else, but
Yeah, end on something else. Like, even Julia as well. Like, we all go on different paths, but
and it
like, we
still
just do
works.
it. Man, it still works,
Still works.
man.
You
Nobody
can see,
knows.
even though CD went to that path, you can still see that it's like sort of the way we were brought up played into that as
Yeah,
well.
man, she's still doing it. And she's still doing that, do you think anybody can do it? Go try it. You know what I'm saying? Go try it.
But yeah, the last thing I was going to go into, I'll probably usually do, I think there's three, but I'm actually probably going to just stick with one, which I like, which is, do you think that people have a purpose? And do you think that it's singular?
I do think we all come here with a purpose of some sort. Do I believe it's singular? No, I don't believe it's singular. I think like, I don't think that there are many things that work as a singular thing within nature, if we think about it.
Right.
Everything, whether it's the trees, the oxygen, that room we breathe in, it goes for our lungs, there's all the, nothing works in a singular way. So I think like there's a multitude of purpose. Oxygen, it's like we're like air, but there's different things that get carried through that.
Turn that air to water.
Water, energy, electricity that then turns into. I don't think that like we have a singular purpose. And do we have a purpose? Yeah, man. I think we all have a purpose. We're all part of this wider thing that has been going on for gazillion and gazillions of years in its way that goes on. And I feel like I think that we have a purpose because part of what's been instilled in us, the thing, the prayer, and the words that I remember always hearing is that like, be useful for yourself so that you can be useful for others. Figure out what your purpose is, what you care about, what you want to do, what makes you tick and doesn't make you tick, so that then you can utilize that in a way to then be useful for others.
Perfect.
In a way,
Perfect.
That's the way that I think about that.
Well, that's what I'm going to end on. That was, I think that was perfect. Be useful for yourself so you can be useful for others. That's been people's perspective with Mobolaji, Agoro. I think that was a phenomenal conversation. I'm sure you learned something from it. I got new perspectives. We're going to definitely run it back.
Yes,
but
we
yeah,
will.
this one is, my battery's about to run out too, but definitely be useful for yourself so that you can be useful for others. Thank you.
Yes.